for home decorating at West Side Decorating Center, and they've taken on an additional paint line too. You will now find Benjamin Moore paints at West Side Decorating Center. And a good morning to you. Welcome to the Art Lewis Show for this Thursday morning. A couple of things coming up after the 10 o'clock news this morning. We'll meet the new director of Pride, Positive Results, Downtown Environment, and also the former director. Both will be with us. At 11 o'clock, we'll talk a bit about the Walleye Festival coming up with Ken Buck from Buck Insurance. That's what's happening. But for this hour, we're going to spend time talking about Child Abuse Prevention Month and what one organization is doing, an organization directly involved, and that is the Can Council of Saginaw, the Can Council of Great Lakes Bay Region, I would guess. With us this morning for another visit is Sharon Norman, and she is director and in charge of child abuse prevention education. Good morning, Sharon. How are you?
Good morning. I'm wonderful. Thank you.
She's always smiling, this woman. Always. Fun to have her here. It is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and while it kind of propels child abuse into the spotlight, this is a year-round thing.
Absolutely.
Not just 1 month, right?
That's right. Child abuse prevention every day.
So let's talk about this month, the April being Child Abuse Prevention Month. Can Council have special activities, or do you just accelerate what you normally do?
Well, we do a little bit of both. So we continue what we're already doing. So we provide education across the community. And so we continue that through the month. So that doesn't change. But what we do is highlight to make sure we are bringing awareness or re-awareness to this topic. Sometimes out of sight, out of mind. And especially we often tend to think, oh, this won't happen in my family, or I wouldn't abuse my children or my grandchildren, so this doesn't really pertain to me. But the reality is, we know that 92% of abuse happens by someone the victim knows. So it absolutely can happen to us. It absolutely can happen in our spheres of influence, not necessarily from a parent, but a coach or a pastor or a teacher. And we see these realities played out on the news often, right? Where a teacher has been brought up on charges, or a coach, or someone in the community that the family or the child has trusted. So it becomes super important to raise awareness so that parents are always vigilant about making sure their children are safe. It's the adult's responsibility to keep kids safe. And it allows us all to keep our eyes open, ears open, so that if we see something, we can say something.
I find this particularly gratifying in certain ways, because when I was on the board of the Can Council way back, that's all we did was education. Mm-hmm. We didn't have the various departments and divisions that you have today doing what you do then. Mm-hmm. It was just a group of people concerned about child abuse who got the word out.
Absolutely.
That was the foundation of the Can Council. So I'm glad to see that element is still forefront.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Which is you.
And our team, we have an incredible team of educators who are storming the gates for the sake of kids and families.
So you are rightful when you say it happens by people we know a lot of times. Mm-hmm. What are the warning signs? What does a parent look for if they feel their child, I got to rephrase that, because so many times, I hate to say this, but a parent can be the abuser. Mm-hmm. So what does the other parent look for in that or outside influences?
Absolutely. So changes in your child's behavior. People who may be giving extra special attention to one of your children or your child. One of the things that we teach in our Stewards of Children training, we talk about these one-on-one scenarios, right? 80% of child sexual abuse happens in one-on-one scenarios. So how do we limit those one-on-one scenarios with folks who may be with our children? So when we talk to teachers, for instance, how do we keep everything that we do observable and interruptible? And so as we're keeping things observable and interruptible, it lowers the risk level of something happening. And so being mindful of those things, parents, it is absolutely okay to ask your schools, hey, what is your background check policy? What is the policy of, when kids are in locker rooms, or, what things are in place to ensure that my child is safe in this space? It is absolutely okay to ask those questions.
And we should point out, abuse is a big word.
Mm-hmm.
It can be sexual.
Mm-hmm.
It can be physical. Doesn't have to be either of those, does it?
No. So there are 4 types of abuse that we tend to recognize, and that is physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, and also emotional or mental injury. Emotional or mental injury is oftentimes harder to identify. It does require a mental health professional to be able to say that has happened.
Yet it actually could be more common.
Yeah. Absolutely. It absolutely can be common.
Let me, we'll come back to all this, but I'm curious about the Sharon Norman story.
Oh, okay.
How did you get to where you are today? What did you study?
Long story short, I've actually spent the last 25 years of my life as clergy. So I have served as a pastor for 25 years.
Really?
Yes, and currently serve as one. I co-pastor with my husband.
Where?
Journey of Grace Church of the Nazarene. And so he and I have served together for a long time, and it's been an incredible journey, but along the way.
I have to ask.
Yes.
Did you grow up in a church family? What led you to the church?
Absolutely. So I grew up in the church. My mom, I remember taking me to the church for the first time at 6 years old. And so church has always been a part of my life. I didn't always understand the journey of faith, but with the village around me, it helped me to navigate that journey and what it would look like for me. And so over time, I could understand faith in a way that helped me to understand what I was doing, why I was here, what I was doing with my life. And
Gotta believe you were always a positive person, though.
Well, I've always been an extrovert. So
that would be it. I got to tell you, folks, because I've known Sharon, and she's a very beautiful woman with this infectious smile.
Oh, thank you.
It's infectious, and I can understand the leadership role you have. But what drew you to the Can Council specifically?
So, just a quick story. In my years of serving in the clergy, I served as a worship pastor for 15 years or so. I think it was 17 years. And it came to a point where I was asked to be a part in the church that I was serving. We were a very large church. And I was asked to be a part of not a focus group, but a committee team that would look at the outcomes of families in the town next door. Now, when I say the town next door, it was literally across the street. So we were this large, yeah. So I said it like it was a huge space. It wasn't. At the time I was living in Illinois, our family was. And so we were a very affluent church. People from the town over, it was like 5 minutes to get to our church from where we lived. And so the town over was very affluent. It was part of a college town. And we would have to pass through this very poor town to get to our very expensive church. Okay. And so one of the things that we learned in this group is that we could no longer see, there's this belief that you can assess children at third grade, their third grade reading level, to determine outcomes in adulthood. So that was the standard they were going by, whether they would end up in jail or they would be successful. And that's how they were making some determinations of what need to be done ahead. So this particular community said, we can't wait till third grade. We have learned that we need to do this in kindergarten to determine, to get them where they need to be by third grade. Very poor community. The school didn't always have books. Kids came to school with coats. And there became this really holy discontent for me. How can I be in a very affluent church working and preaching this message of love and care for the poor, and next door there is the poor, and we have no interaction. And so there was a bit of a different disenfranchisement that I was going through. And it was like, God, I signed up for this incredible adventure not to be a jukebox on a Sunday morning. And so I began to struggle
that way before.
But that's what I felt like. It was like, people gave their list. This is the songs I want to hear.
B, here's the sermon.
Right. And so it was like, I felt like you were calling me to something deeper, something, and this isn't it. And so I actually left that assignment and not knowing what I would do, but knowing what I was supposed to do. And so my husband and I received an invitation to come to Saginaw, which is his hometown, to come back for him. And we came back. And one of the deals for me was I can't work full time in the church anymore. I got to live in the very world that Jesus calls me to love. And so started substitute teaching and substitute taught for 4 years. And in that process, my oldest was going into high school. And in her 10th grade year, she got a baby or a simulator, baby simulator. Let me clarify.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
because they do the Safe Baby program at
Right.
Can Council. She brought it home. I looked over the material, read it, went through that process with her. And at the end of that weekend, I knew that Can Council was where I was supposed to spend myself.
Funny.
And so,
What's the old line? God works in mysterious ways.
yeah. So I applied immediately and they never called me back. So, so I'm like, but God, I know what I'm hearing here and I know what I'm supposed to do. So after I graduated with my master's, I applied again and they took me. So that's how I got there.
I had to ask because I knew there was a story. Hang on, and we'll be back. We're talking to Sharon Norman from the Can Council, where she directs their child abuse prevention education program. Let me take a moment to talk about McDonald Ford in Freeland, because you've probably noticed it's getting harder and harder to find products that are made in America, quote. Well, now with the uncertainty of tariffs, it's becoming even more important. McDonald Ford, in anticipation of tariffs, stocked their lot with tariff-free vehicles, with many more en route. Not only are they tariff-free, but now Ford is offering employee pricing for everyone. That means you pay the same price as Ford employees. In addition, Chrysler and import buyers, you're considering a Ford, you'll receive the lowest price offered. Chevy truck buyers can now get a truck they might have always wanted, the F-150 Ford, also at employee pricing. So you see, now's the right time to visit McDonald Ford M47 in Freeland for the best selection and lowest possible price. Don't let tariffs prevent you from getting the vehicle of your choice at a price you can afford. Visit McDonald Ford in Freeland today. Remember, tariff-free and employee pricing for everyone.
Here's comedian Howie Mandel for
This is a test of the emergency alert system on WSGW. Equipment that can quickly warn you during emergencies is being tested. WSGW serves Saginaw, Bay, and Midland counties, along with the surrounding area. This concludes this test of the emergency alert system.
You here on WSGW as we talk to Sharon Norman. She is the Director of Child Abuse Prevention Education for the Can Council, the Great Lakes Bay. and we are talking about Child Abuse Prevention Month, which is going on right now, actually, in April till the end of the month, which isn't that far away. It's amazing how time flies when you're having fun. You gave me this card about it, and on the card on the back, I noticed something that intrigued me called a parent cafe. What is a parent cafe?
So, in preventing child abuse, one of the things that we know, if you strengthen the family, the risk reduces of a child being abused. And so our parent education is what we do to strengthen the family. So a parent cafe is a safe space where parents can gather to talk about the challenges and successes of parenting. They talk about topics that matter to them. And so you have parents around a table, like 5 or 6 around a table, and there may be several tables in the room.
I assume coffee's involved with
yeah.
this. Yeah.
Or snacks, or what have you. We do eat, because that's important. But they're able. We provide some education. They'll talk about that education. But what's really cool about a parent cafe is that the fidelity or the evidence base that it works is in the model. The model of how you gather people together to hear their voices.
A model that you picked up from nationally, or is this a local model?
Yes, it's Be Strong Families. This is a national organization. And Be Strong Families, they focus on these things called protective factors. In other words, if these factors are in place in a family, the family will more likely thrive and raise children who in safe environments who will thrive. And so we focus on things like parental resilience, or a parent's ability to bounce back in times of trouble, which is huge, because if a parent can bounce back, their kids are more likely to bounce back. Social connections.
But COVID was quite a test of that.
Absolutely. Because one part of that is social connections. And so learning how to build your village. In a season like COVID, building your village was really hard because we were isolated from each other. And we saw the output of that for people, that sense of isolation. We need each other. Parenting is hard.
During COVID, I don't know that I ever asked this before, did we see an increase in calls for service at the CAN Council?
So we had about the same amount of calls. I think there was a bit of an uptick out of COVID because at that point things were revealed out of COVID. When people were in their homes, nobody saw what was happening.
Yeah.
So, outside of that, when you were able to come out of that, there were things that were revealed and you could see. And so I'll tell you, this year, in the first 60 days, we had over 90 interviews in our Child Advocacy Center.
Is that normal or is that high?
That's an uptick. So we had a total of 600 through December of 24.
I have to ask this, Sharon. I mean, and I've asked this question for decades about this topic. It seems the more we try and educate, the more we talk about it, the more services we offer, the numbers don't seem to go down.
Right.
And that seems to be a paradox to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I share that frustration with you. And some of it is, what is the thing that will work? So here's something to consider, which we can't quantify just yet, and I'm determined to do it, at least in our area. When we have an uptick in cases, the question becomes, is the uptick because it's happening more or it's being reported more? If it's happening more, this is a concern. If it's being reported more, this is a reason to celebrate.
Problem is, it's probably a combination.
It could be, but we really don't know yet. And so part of our research that we're hoping to do with our own work is to look at where the reports are coming from. So if it's been places that we've been, so we provide mandated reporter training. If we've provided this mandated reporter training, there is an uptick and these are verified or substantiated abuse cases, we've done well. And that's the part we need to figure out. If reports are coming based on schools that we've been in because students are self-reporting, we need to know that. So those are stats that we're working on now to just look internally to see if what we're doing is working to stop it from happening. And is that why those numbers are going up? So I can't say just yet, and I don't want to say just yet because it could be one or the other or both and.
I have to believe, and I'm not an expert in this subject, but I have to believe that it's difficult to get youngsters to self-report because of fear of reprisal at the other end.
Yeah. We know that statistically, the average age of self-disclosure is 52 years old.
Huh?
Yeah. So, exactly.
I wasn't thinking along those lines, but
yeah. And we should let that rest with us for a minute.
This is why we hear so many "I was abused when"
Yep.
stories.
Absolutely.
Right? All right.
Yep.
Hold on, I got to take a break. We'll be back. Sharon Norman, our guest from the Can Council. More ahead.
Attention, all Mega Millions players.
And we're back with you here on the Art Lewis Show, talking to Sharon Norman, who is the Director of Child Abuse Prevention Education for the Can Council of the Great Lakes Bay Region. Sharon, you gave me this card, and there are things on this card I just shake my head at. 1 in 5 youth with access to a digital device, which is just about every youth, will be sexually solicited online.
Yes. Yes.
That's a scary number.
It is. It is absolutely a scary number. One of the realities of our digital technology serves us in great ways, but it also has that side. If we're not careful and we're not paying attention, our children can be at risk. I don't know about you, and based on what the little bit I know about you and the kind of parent, how you talked about your own kids in the past and your experiences when they were little, and they wanted to go outside and play. You grabbed their hand and you took them outside to the park and you taught them how to stand in line fairly and go up on the slide, and you did all the things, right? No 2-year-old of yours looked at the door, said, I want to go out, and you opened the door and said, okay, come back at 5, right?
Yeah, no.
Nobody does that, right?
Never happened.
Well, unfortunately, when it came to our digital world, because kids were sitting in our home, we didn't recognize that they were still entering a space that was very rich with perils and dangers. And so I always tell parents, you may have a set of values in your home, but there is also a set of values that exist in the digital world. And if our kids are spending an exorbitant amount of time in the digital world, trust me, those values, they will develop, right? There are a lot of hidden spaces. I go back to that 80% of one-on-one interactions with are really ripe spaces for kids to be abused, right? And so if they're in their online space by themselves with the potential access, and other adults have access, games like Roblox, some of our digital games that kids go on, there are chat features. That's where we see some of those things happening, those access points. And if parents are not or are oblivious to what happens in these games or in some of these online spaces, it does open up our kids for unsafe interactions. The kids call them the DMs, drop in their direct messaging. Anybody can oftentimes drop in those direct messages, and that's sometimes where it happens. Apps like YouTube Kids are highly sexualized in some of their some of the cartoons that they have. And we think because it says YouTube Kids, it's for small kids, we should be fine.
Vetted and safe and all that.
It's not always the case. And so we have to really be diligent. And there's another side of that. When it comes to kids interacting with technology, overuse, it does affect their brain development, and we are learning that.
It just seems so much of this that we talk about leads back to that core family.
Mm-hmm. It
And
does.
how aware they are of what their youngsters are involved in.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really is the key, isn't it?
Yeah.
In a lot
Yeah.
of ways. Not the only key, but a major key.
And a strong village. Because here's the thing, my mom, she was a single mom. I was a latchkey kid. And so what made a difference in my life, I had my aunts around. There was a neighbor down the street that I could connect with. We did have a village, and I wasn't just out there floundering on my own. There were people around us. My mom had to work to take care of us. Like, she couldn't just stay at home, right? And so you have parents who leave one job, who go to the next job, and their kids kind of in some ways have to, you've done all that you can. But they do have to fend for themselves in some ways.
I tend to think, I hear you talking, but I tend to think you were probably a good student and your mother probably installed pretty good values into you. Because you had choices like everybody else. I had choices. I was a street kid in the Bronx in New York. I could have done the mischievous, but I chose not to because I knew if I went home and had done it, my parents would be all over me.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the reality. Who you see today is not who I was as a child or even as a teenager. My background is rich with its own set of abuses, and they impacted me greatly. There's something called adverse childhood experiences, and folks can take that little survey and get a score. And there's 10 things that would be listed as adverse childhood experiences. My ACE, they call them ACE scores, is about a 5.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And so,
But isn't it interesting? And this is true in other areas that we see, like addiction, drug addiction, alcohol addiction. Those who have suffered it make the best teachers for prevention. You have experience.
Yeah, true.
Not maybe experience you want to go back and live again,
Right.
but it's left a mark on you.
Yes.
It's left a mark on you. Take one more break here and be back with Sharon right after these notes.
Hometown feel and
We're back with you here on WSGW. We're talking to Sharon Norman from the CAN Council, where she directs the Child Abuse Prevention Education Program. What can the average person do to help out?
Oh, I'm so glad you
I
asked.
knew you would be.
So there are tons of things, right? From the very small to the very large. One, learn the facts. Learn about it. Knowledge is power. The more we know, the more we are equipped to actually be able to do something, to be aware of our surroundings for the sake of the kids that are in our sphere of influence, right? So that's a very simple thing to do. Next thing, you can volunteer. There are many ways to volunteer at the CAN Council. We have people who come in and they will sort clothes for our locker. Our locker is the space that parents can, or families who utilize our services can shop. They can get clothes for their family. And so there's organizations that may come with their employees or individuals who will come and sort or come and do mailers when it's time for our fundraisers. So we have 3 fundraisers a year: Golf Sit in Huron County, Mardi Gras in Saginaw County,
Big one.
and then Dine and Unwind in Bay City or Bay County. And so you can volunteer for those events. So those are one time or ongoing if you wanted to do it every week. There's another way that's super important that we really, as we go into May, we'll be talking about Foster Care Awareness Month. For those who aren't able to foster, but they have space in their life to serve and help a child who is in the foster care system, you can become a CASA, a court-appointed special advocate. These are people who give 4 to 6 hours a month to be able to walk with a kid through their foster care case.
And highly trained.
Highly trained. We do the training for them, and then they are sworn in by the court, and they will be assigned a child. And what's significant about this is that children with CASAs get more services through the court system. They come to permanency goal, whether that's reunion